Dr. Shashank Srivastava is a bachelor in mechanical engineering with masters in aerospace and doctorate in biomedical structural health monitoring from IIT Kanpur and IIT Delhi respectively. He has a cumulative experience of 13 years in industry, DRDO and teaching. He has previously worked for the health monitoring of vapor compression and vapor absorption refrigeration systems in the industry, and thereafter conducted research for developing life supporting systems for fighter pilots at DRDO. Later, he changed to IGNO. So he's currently working as an assistant professor at School of Engineering and Technology, IGNO, where he's involved in developing online courses like Swayam and all. So, and delivering lectures on Gyan Darshan and Gyan Bani channels. So, his areas of interest and applications of smart materials for health monitoring of biomedical specimens, aerospace, and mechanical structures. So, so let's welcome our guest, Dr. Shashank Srivastava. Today he would be talking about the science of values. Okay, so
Okay, thank you very much and welcome to all the listeners. And I'm very thankful to ISS for giving me this opportunity to talk on this particular subject, that is the science of values. And let's start. So welcome all. So we are going to discuss about the science of the values. So first of all, what is the definition of science as per the modern definition or the dictionary? What is it? It says that it is the study of and knowledge about the physical world and natural laws. So this is one definition, and another one is any system of knowledge that is concerned with the physical world and its phenomena, and that entails unbiased observations and systematic experimentation. So here we see that there are unbiased observations as well as systematic experimentation. So mainly what science we are talking about right now is dealing only with the physical world, this modern science, and it is about experimentation and the empirical things. So next we see the definition of values. And as per the Wikipedia and dictionary, we can see the definition: value denotes the degree of importance of something or action with the aim of determining what actions are best to do or what way is best to live, or to describe the significance of different actions. So here there are certain kind of, we can say, values are dealing with ethics or certain rules and regulations. And why do we need these rules and regulations? We will see in the upcoming slide. As per science, I have already told that we are just talking about the modern science, which talks about the gross material science only. There are other kinds of science, but we don't deal with those actually in the modern science. So do we really need values? So here are some of the arguments which we can see. Let's try to answer this by comparing an animal and a human being. So in the animal community, suppose there is one fish, a small fish, and there's a big fish, that is a shark, suppose. So what happens that generally the big fish eats up the small one. So there is the talk of the survival of the fittest. Even Darwin gave it, survival of the fittest. Similarly, there are two animals, male and female, and they enjoy together without any restrictions, and they can enjoy each other anytime without consideration of marriage. You can see here two dogs, they are fighting with each other, they are howling at each other. So dogs have this tendency: if a dog of one area is there, so if dog from other area comes, then it starts shouting, and meaning it has got a tendency to lord over the other and tries to signify that this area belongs to me. That tendency is in the animal, and even in the humans to a certain extent. It depends what kind of consciousness we carry. So animals also fight for food, and there is no talk of values. But doesn't these conditions reflect a chaotic society? Yes, it does. Like I have told you, that the dogs start fighting anytime. Similarly, in other animals also you can see, like suppose there is a lion and there is a human being. So what's the difference? For a lion, all of us, anybody is standing, a living being is standing before him, he or she is just a lump of flesh. It's an eating material. Whereas for a human being, it is not so. And the difference comes due to the values only. So continuing with that, humans, as I have told, on the other hand, are bestowed with a kind of intelligence which makes them think beyond their basic instincts. Certain basic instincts are there. We have the tendency to enjoy each other, then we have the tendency to eat and defend. So all these tendencies are the basic instincts only, but the humans have that quality to rise above these, whereas the animals don't have. Some of the values that are commonly expected from a human are what we all know: honesty, humility, mercy, compassion, tolerance. All these are found in human beings and not in animals. Generally, not in animals. They do sometimes when they have their offsprings and all, they show certain compassion, like a cat has its kittens and all those things, but not too much. Humans suffer mostly due to the ignorance or the non-implementation of these values. Just because we are not able to implement these values in our lives, that's why we suffer. Like for example, if you take an example of a traffic light. So at a junction, if you say the cars and the motors, they are coming from suppose 4 or 3 directions, and there is no traffic person or no traffic light. So what happens that people just keep on crossing, and in that crossing what happens, nobody will be able to cross because they will start fighting and there will be a jam. Whereas if they follow the traffic rules, there will be no jam and everyone would be able to pass through very nicely, smoothly. So that's the difference. Just because we understand certain values and certain rules, so it is not like that the rules are just to bind us. These rules actually help us. They help us to create a much better society where we can cooperate with each other. So questions that arise are, who out of the two are civilized or build civilizations? So there are two things, animals and humans. So which out of the two live in an orderly manner? That is the humans and not animals. We can see, we can create buildings, we can create our own houses, and we try to live in a peaceful manner. But nowadays humans are also trying to become like animals. But the conclusion comes out that higher values, humans and civilized, whereas lower values, we are animals and we are not civilized. So value as a science or its precursor. So science is said to be a systematic branch of knowledge that deals with a body or facts or truths showing the operation of general laws. Like we have got the physical laws, like there is the G(m1)(m2) by r square. That is the gravitational force between any two bodies in this particular universe, like suppose Earth and Moon. So that's a law. So similarly, we have laws and we have values. So these also deal with certain laws. And from this definition of science, it can be said to be the knowledge about the working of natural things. Similarly, science of values is the knowledge about the working of the values, how the values help to run the society. How do values affect the working of our society and surroundings? So David Hansen, a scientist, he says there appears to be a consensus that values intrinsically constitute an important subject of social scientific inquiry. So here it is established that values that can be said to be a science, and if not our this physics and chemistry based, but it's a social science. So when we talk of values, we should also try to know from where these values are coming actually. Who is the source of these values? Because see, if I am going to create my own value and you are going to create your own value, so it may be that both the values clash with each other, and then there will be chaos and fighting. So there should be one common source who should be giving these values. At least certain fundamental values should be common to all. So that means that goes towards what? It indicates that a reference is needed or a source is needed, who is higher than us and who can give us the values, so that we can follow those things and we can lead a peaceful life. And this can be what? This can be a spiritual book or a person who displays such values. And one example I am giving from the Bhagavad Gita, there is one text, 10.425, where it is given, Buddhir Jnanam Asamoha, Shama Satyam, Dama, Shama Sukham Dukkham Bhavo Bhayam, Cha Bhayam Meva Cha Ahimsa, Samata Tushti Stapodanam, Yasho Yasha, Bhavanti Bhava Bhutanam Matta Eva Pritak Vida. Meaning all these, some are qualities which are given in these particular shlokas or the text, like Shama, Satyam, Dama, all these are qualities which we can say are the values which we should possess as a human being. So there's one more famous scientist, Sam Harris, who declares himself to be an atheist, but what he says, we will see here. He talks about the science of values, and he says that the crux of his argument is that well-being of conscious creatures should be the paramount consideration when determining whether an action is morally correct or incorrect. So he talks about certain things which are morally correct or incorrect, but he doesn't talk about who or what is the source of the word morally. Since he's saying that he's an atheist, so he doesn't believe in any source or God. So how he's bringing this thing in, morally correct or incorrect? He should also give certain reference from here where he gets these things. But he says that he's an atheist and he doesn't believe in any God, but still talks about morally correct or incorrect. So that's a kind of a contradiction in his own talk. So now we will see certain examples of the values, the positive and the negative values and their consequences. Like in our Vedic culture, we know from the past that the younger ones used to touch the feet of the elder people to show them respect. And this is an age-old tradition which, if done in proper mood, generates immense harmony. Mood is very important because whatever we are doing in our lives, the intention behind doing anything is very, very important, because somebody may be touching the feet of an elder person, but not in the proper mood, just to show off. So it's important that our intention is also very right while executing the physical things. Similarly, we see an example of a negative value. So in World War II, as such, I should not say value, negative value, because value is meant for positive thing. So it's a negative aspect, we can say. World War II, Hitler, he was obsessed with a superiority complex and he hated the Jews. So he had arrogance, pride, intolerance. So all these things were there in that person. And what result we got from that? Such chaos and such loss of lives and property, everything. So see, negative aspects, arrogance, pride, and intolerance. If one says negative values, so these are part of that. Similarly, war, earlier war, if see, Mahabharat war was there, such a big war around 5,000 years back. In the Dwapar Yuga. So what happened during that war, that when the two parties had finished, used to finish their war for the day, they used to sit together and eat together. And there was that principle also that if somebody shows his back, then he should not be attacked. But nowadays what happens, mostly ambush is glorified. That this guerrilla warfare is very good, and some of the people are very good in that. So the principles are lost. Similarly, last year only there was this tale of deceit and treachery. In Kerala, one elephant was killed by the human beings by putting a pineapple filled with explosives in its mouth. So it exploded and it died. And it was pregnant as well. But see the kind of cruelty we are subjecting these animals to. So we have that loss of values nowadays. It is happening. And it is just because of the loss of values, because the human beings cannot think of the welfare of the other species. So is there is a need to be educated or trained in values? Right now, the scenario is such that we should be trained, because what we are getting trained in, it is not helping us very much. So it is said plants are shaped by cultivation and humans by education. So we are saying that there are many colleges and we have got very good human resource, and there are doctors, there are engineers, accountants, administrators, everybody. But what we are lacking actually, there is degradation of consciousness, and that's a major issue of concern. Because you see, everyone is talking nowadays. Even we are talking of doctors that they are doing business in the name of serving and all those things. I'm not maligning anybody, but it is like that in every field. It is like that. So these things are coming up. Why? Because there is lack of values. So we can just perform one experiment with ourselves only. Suppose to know what this value does to our life. So suppose there are teachers in our life, and in your earlier life, everybody had a teacher who had influenced us. And just take example of two teachers who influenced us the most, and they inspired us, motivated us. So we can write down that, and we can write the characteristics, what motivated us most in that particular teacher. Similarly, if you didn't like any teacher in your life, you can write two characteristics of that. So two negative reasons. And what it will come out to, suppose you like somebody, some teacher, then you will say, okay, he has very good knowledge, and he deals with the students in a very right manner. He is very cordial, and he doesn't favor anybody. He is impartial, and he doesn't scold much. He talks in a very nice manner. So if you see all these things, and negative traits are also there. So if you see the crux of that, we see that knowledge is there. If we segregate the good and the bad characteristics, then knowledge, it comes into three things: knowledge, skills, and values. So knowledge is one part. Knowledge is one part, but when we talk about the good people, then mostly what happens, besides the knowledge, we see other properties. So what are those other properties? These comprise of the good values only. Like the person is very nice, and he doesn't betray anybody, and he deals with everyone in an impartial manner. So these things come under values only, and that is having much more weightage than the material knowledge. So values play a major role in the personality of a person, and these are the basic and fundamental principles which are set as standards, and they govern the behavior of a person. Like our father of nation, Mahatma Gandhi, also said, if wealth is lost, nothing is lost. If health is lost, something is lost, and if character is lost, everything is lost. So what is the best thing? Then character, and character is also a value. Here we see an example of Einstein with one of his colleagues, and from here we can see that people strongly believe in values and give it more respect. So once Einstein was walking in his campus, and he was greeted by a person who said, "Nice to meet you, sir. I'm Mr. So and so, and I'm a professor in physics." So Albert Einstein replied promptly, "Well, nice to meet you too. Sir, I'm Albert Einstein. I'm just a student of physics." So the young person remained stunned and speechless, looking at the humility of Albert Einstein. Similarly, Sachin Tendulkar is also known very well for his humble attitude. So we can, after talking about these things, we now see some statistical evidence also. So this is one graph you can see here. On the left side, there's one curve. One is light green in color, and the below one is dark green in color. And on the x-axis, the years are mentioned from 2002 to 2019. So the light green one represents the current conditions of our moral values, and future these conditions are mentioned by the shown by the dark green one. Whereas on the right hand side, there's a histogram which shows the happiness index, and this is for USA only. So you can see from 2013 to 20. So now you see in the curves, the light green and the dark green one, from 2013 and 14 onwards, if you see, or leave it aside, just see from 2016 to 19, and both the graphs, the dark green and the light green, both are going downwards. So the moral values are going down, and future prediction or expectation is even bad, worse. So the values will go down, and accordingly you see here 2013 to 15 there is not so much of correlation, but from 2016 to 20 on, as you can see, 20 is better, but 2016 to 19, as the moral values are going down, so is the happiness index. So we can say that there's a certain correlation between the moral values and the happiness. So what is the goal of our education actually? Is it information transmission or transformation of the individual? Sometimes we must be hearing about this, that information diarrhea is happening. Like we have diarrhea, we suffer from diarrhea. Similarly, so much information is coming out from everywhere that we are suffering from the diarrhea of information diarrhea. So is it that important, so much of information, or the transformation of individual is important? So we will see here what is real education. Say Chanakya, actually, he is a very renowned personality from our past. So he tested a person's education by 3 questions, that are the 3 which are given here, questions of character and ethics. Like the first one, Matvat Paradhareshu, and the second one, Paradraveshu Lostravat. The third one is the Atmavat Sarvabhuteshu, meaning one who considers another's wife as his mother, another's possessions as a lump of dirt, and treats all other living beings as he would himself, is considered to be learned. So that is the definition of learned by the sage Chanakya, not our this mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, or different kinds of sciences. So what is the result of the current educational system? We can see the input at the KG level. All of us are seeing this thing, that an innocent child holds a water bag in hand, and there is a bag at his back also. He is completely loaded, then lollipop in mouth, and he catches hands of parents, goes to school. Nowadays you are seeing this online education also. 3-year kids are also doing that, and it has some detrimental effects also, like eyes get affected due to the laptop and the mobiles, all those things. But earlier the children used to move in the fields, like 20 or 30 years back, and they were playing much more in the open rather than in the house. And output after college, what happens? Youth holding different bottles in hand. You can understand what these bottles are of: beer and all those kinds of drink, alcohol. And then there are fire sticks in the mouth, smoking, then catching hands of new girl or boyfriends everywhere. That is a kind of infidelity. So you see here, this is the output we are getting. So information was passed for 20 years. Suppose a person studies, like he passes the 12th class, so 12 years that, and after that he does suppose some medical study or engineering, so he spends suppose up to PhD or up to DM or MCH, he spends up to 20 years in education. So what happens? This is the kind of output we are getting. So output is worse than the input, and we spend 20 years for this. And in reality, what is the real truth? Tree is tested by the quality of fruits. Like today we see there are fruits. What kind of fruits we are getting? Scams are there. We have heard of so many scams. Like here examples are given: 2G scam, Padarsha scam, and CWG scam. Number of things. Then quarrels are happening. This murders, rapes, robberies, and children shooting teachers. In America, it is very much prevalent nowadays. Children shooting in schools. But what is expected actually? This is the previous slide showed what is happening, but what do we expect in reality? It should be like this: Vidya Vinayan Shobhate. Educated one is supposed to be humble and not arrogant. Like a tree laden with fruits, it bows down. Amanina Manadena, respectful towards all living beings, whether it be parents, teachers, friends, and animals. So like I told you, tree laden with fruits bows down. So looking at the current situation in our world, is that the end of the road? No, it's not the end of the road, because we have got solutions. Present system also can play a major role. And it is said that values are caught more than taught. Like for example, Anna Hazare was there, and he became a sensational youth icon a few years back. And why it was like that? Not because of power, beauty, degrees, etc., money, high birth, anything you take. It was because of the satyagraha, and he did this time against corruption, and earlier he had done against the wine. And he's a simple person. He doesn't possess many degrees and all material knowledge. And so what should be the role of the parents and the teachers? We need a kind of a center, or we can say a whole village to raise a child, because the surroundings and the environment affect our upbringing. It is said that children are like wet cement. The way we want to grow up them up, that same way they will come up. So parents and teachers need to walk the talk. And one example here it is given that doctor is telling that there are dangers of smoking, but he is holding the cigarette in his own hand. So such kind of teachers are also not needed, because one has to one is speaking or telling something to the other person, he should also be following that thing, whatever he is telling. That is important. That's why in Sanskrit we have the term acharya, which means that teaching by acharan, by our own vyavhar, by our own behavior. That is very important. So parents and teachers' role is also very important. We cannot teach them if we are not following certain things. So we have to redefine values also as per time, place, circumstance. Like there was one example in Ramayana, monkeys and birds and all those creatures cooperated with Lord Ram to kill the evil person Rama. So we can also cooperate with our family members and parents and teachers, and we should also have forgiving nature for the small mistakes which occur. And we have seen the details have somewhat changed. Like for example, Mahatma Gandhi's satyagraha was somewhat different than that of Anna Hazare. And then application of values may change, but the value in itself does not. Like somebody may say that in previous women were not allowed to venture at night, but nowadays it has become a necessity, because sometimes the situation or the circumstance is like that the woman also has to earn. So what should be our mentality in that case? We should have this mentality that we have to protect women. That is a kind of value, and all members should try to protect the sisters and the mothers. So if that thing is in the mind, it doesn't matter if time has changed. So can Gurukul type of education and Gurukul system help? Yes, it can, but we cannot change everything drastically. So Gurukul as such in the modern era can just be a wisdom center where students can ask for application of a principle. We may not and need not reverse the current educational system. So we need to create wisdom centers. Here the one word is used, that is the bujur, that means old people with experience who have got the right kind of experience of leading life, and they can guide on application of a principle, and they themselves must have led a life of principles. That's very important. So these wisdom centers, what is a Gurukul definition in the modern sense we take it? A place where Guru lives, person who practices what he teaches. So that's again is here emphasized very much, that one should follow first of all and then teach. So parents, teachers and elderly people in the neighborhood can lead the children. That is a wisdom center, a place where wise person is available to give guidance. So then we don't need to go to forest, and we can create our excellence center in our schools and colleges, in towns and villages. And we can even use our technology to spread the wisdom. Like this technology, Dr. Beoria and all other members are there. They are spreading the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic system. So the technology can also be used. And thus they will become voices for the misdirected and needy people, not only youths, other people also. They will also get the right direction. Let's see some case studies, how the changes have taken place in reality. So in 1960, USA was full of anti-social movement, and it was called the hippie movement. And there were youths from good middle-class families, and they just rejected their families and took to drugs like LSD and marijuana and all those things. And USA government was spending millions of dollars on rehabilitation centers, but nothing changed. But one person from India, he went there and gave them the meaning of life, and he was a very, very wise man. So his name was actually A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who was the founder of ISKCON, and he led a life of principles, simplicity, cleanliness, purity, humility, tolerance. All these things were ingrained in him. So all these things, what are these things actually? These are values only. He was full of the right kind of values. So hippies observed, and they heard him, they tested him, applied teachings in their own lives and got the results. So hippies changed to happies. So Srila Prabhupada also once said that what he has done, he has changed the hippies to happies. So that is a great example of change in the modern era. Another case study, the person was embodiment of forgiveness and compassion. Whole life was given to help others, but he was betrayed by his one close member. So I think you would have guessed who it was. It was Jesus Christ. He was crucified, but he did not leave the path of truth. And today you can see so many followers, millions of followers of Christianity are there. They have dedicated their life to teachings all over the world. So the conclusion is that education without values is equal to information, information, and information, and no transformation of heart. That's what I had said earlier also, meaning information diarrhea. So we will be suffering from information diarrhea if our education system doesn't comprise of values, the right kind of values. And knowledge plus skills plus values is equal to complete individual. So we must have knowledge, we must have skills, but in addition to this, we must also have values. So we need to create wisdom centers all over the world. So that means value is a fact that results in harmonious way of living. Hence, it is a science, because science also comprises of this cause and effect very much. Here also we can see if we have values, then there is the effect of that. We are not like animals, and if we don't have values, we are like animals. So these are certain references from where I have taken these things. Thank you very much. And Dr. Vioria, if there are any questions, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shashank Srivastava, for kindly sharing this wisdom. It was very practical and very down to earth. Everybody, surrounding world, we see such degrading values. So I think if the participants have any questions, they can surely ask directly also. We can type on the chat box also. So I'll read out for Dr. Srivastava. So,
Yes.
in your opinion, as per our Vedic tradition, so what could be the absolute platform of such values? Because value change in society. Today, something is value. What was value in Vedic society is no longer value in modern times. So
Yes,
we
yes.
just cannot stick on to ancient values in total. I mean, so how do you see what should be the absolute platform on which values should rest?
See, in absolute terms, if you see, the values are coming directly from God, or you can say Lord Krishna. So one can say, okay, it's a thing of the past, or many years have gone by. We cannot follow everything. So there are things like that, but at least we can follow certain things. And in that sense, the best thing in the modern era can be reading of the Bhagavad Gita. This Bhagavad Gita actually is meant for the modern people also, not only for the people from ages. Because if you see, you asked that Vedas, they are things of old times. So the Vedas, they are very huge amount of knowledge is there. They are very big. So we cannot follow everything from that, but at least we can follow from the Bhagavad Gita. It's not too big, and anybody can read it and complete it within the lifetime. And from there on, from that place, we can get the values which we can follow in the modern era also. It is very practical. People are following those things. So I think that can be one reference point.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you so much. There are some questions also.
Yes, please.
Subrat is asking, any particular point when the world started forgetting values? So what made the world forget values?
Any particular point? Okay. So is he talking about any time?
I guess
Okay.
he can unmute himself and elaborate if he wishes.
Yes, like any particular event or
Okay. Any point of time. Okay. So if you see, as per the scriptures, the point from where this degradation starts is said to be Kali Yuga actually. So it started 5,000 years back, and the degradation had started at that point of time, and gradually it is going on increasing. So at the end of Kali Yuga, this society will be very, very degraded. It is said like that. and all the predictions of the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, they have come true. So this will also be coming true.
So Sanat is asking, during Vedic times, did people get everything on time?
Did people get everything on time? What he is referring to, what kind of thing?
Could you elaborate?
Oh
Sanat?
yeah. Means actually the thing is that means the we like the the progress we are making is to make the services faster and as compatible as possible. Means the server means the service should reach the person who is seeking after it as fast as possible, right? So when we are talking about the values of tolerance, so what is your perspective during on this value during the Vedic times? Means if a person wants something, so he has to perform a certain kind of yajna, right? So there's a huge time gap between the point when he wants something and the point when he gets something.
Okay.
And but the modern environment has been created like that, that you have to get whatever you want, means at a snap, right? You
Okay.
snap and you get the thing. So it's not in harmony with the value of tolerance.
Yes, we have to spend time regarding the when the person will be getting. We will have to do some tapasya or austerity to get the things, whether it be Kali Yuga or whether be it this the previous ages like Dwapar or some Treta Yuga. Like you see example also in the present era. Suppose you have to qualify an IAS exam, or it is also like a tapasya or an IIT exam. So what you do, you study for 12 years, then you qualify the competitive exam, you work hard for that, and then you get the entrance. And after passing the 4 years, then you get the BTech degree and you can get a good job. So all these things are like tapasya only. We have the tendency to get things in one go, but we are not getting it. The thing is that we get frustrated. Yes, you are right that tolerance goes away. But earlier people were not that frustrated. They were patient and they waited for things. So I hope that is clear.
Yes, that's okay, but in general I'm speaking. Means if means like now you wanna now if someone wants a product to buy a product, so he will directly go online, right? And he
Okay.
will just opt, if he had some bit of money more, means if he is economically stable, so he will means opt for that fast delivery option, right?
Okay.
And the whole environment is like means to accelerate the process more and more.
Yes. Yes.
Even if you go to the means as you sir told in the slide that we need not means just force stop the present educational system to revert, so that and we don't need directly to revert back to the Gurukul system, but
Yes.
the present scenario is just like that. We're being trained like that. He
So
matlab, means you have means you have to create such an environment that products come means times everything comes at your snap. So and it is becoming the means hallmark of your success, right? And hallmark of
yes.
development. So
But
that I was talking about.
in the real sense, that is not development, because you are getting more and more frustrated. Like
Yeah.
you are talking like online system. Okay, you are getting the things, the products. What value does that product have? You are using that for a while, and then it just is like a discarded thing. So you may be getting things at a faster rate, but it is not that it is going to satisfy you or it is going to give you happiness. So that thing is happening, that is true, but it is not giving us the ultimate happiness. That's why we have to maintain a balance between the things. We can't go back to the previous era of education system, but we have to bring in the wisdom centers, like I told you, in the education system. We need to bring in the value based subjects and the ethics based subjects. Then only we can succeed in the sense of happiness. So that's what I can say for this.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much. I think there is no more further questions. So thank you very much, sir, for kindly sharing this practical wisdom. And certainly, we need values in our society. And as you rightly said, we cannot directly go back, but certainly we cannot forget all our values. So the standard of our values is our ancient scriptures. So this is something to be taken in utmost consideration. Today, society we don't teach such things, but the dissemination of knowledge of that sort, so that is very much required, and certainly ISS is meant for that purpose. So we're trying to encourage people to take up such things which are forgotten, which otherwise, I mean, those things will be lost in the course of time. So thank you very much for kindly enlightening.
Thank you
So
very much.